a hard place. Like a wind from Goldland he sweeps by, blown far from his homeland in search of glory and honor. We walk in the garden of his turbulence.
Hello and welcome to Movie Joust. My name is Jesse Nussman, a film critic living here in Atlanta, Georgia. And with me on the other line, they're going to stomp all over your face, even if their heart won't snap back into place. Fantastic 1, Fantastic 2, Fantastic 3, Fantastic 4. It's Jason Evans, Josh Sewell. Do you guys understand that reference, or is that just
Went
like something
right
I know?
over my head?
Okay, that's from the Fantastic Four musical in season 4 of Arrested Development.
Oh my God.
Deep
Okay.
I'm gonna find that audio and use that as like the intro for this episode. I'm gonna that's my goal. It's really, I've just had that like going in my head like for the last year or so.
There seems to be some mistake because I think there was only 3 seasons of Arrested Development. So
Oh yeah, that's true. We don't count the Netflix ones. Yeah.
you must be doing some of that AI hallucination. I don't know what you're talking about.
So guys, we're now two weeks out from the last time we talked about a major superhero blockbuster, and we're here again talking about another major superhero blockbuster, this time from Marvel Studios and the Walt Disney Corporation. It is Fantastic Four: First Steps, a movie I have not seen because I was coming back from a wedding, but you guys have seen, and that leaves me the opportunity to pick your brains about one of the more consequential blockbusters of the summer. So guys, how's Fantastic Four? Did they finally get it right this time? Attempt number 5?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll go ahead and say, I think, I need to rest on it. I need to sit on it a little bit longer to make this definitive, but I'll go ahead and say my initial reaction is that this is the best Marvel movie since Avengers Endgame, maybe since Spider-Man No Way Home, which came right after Avengers Endgame. But certainly in the past, 2-3 years or so, since we had those films that were sort of the peak of what Marvel could do. Admittedly, that's not a high bar to be the best in the past 2 years. But look, coming on the heels of Thunderbolts, which I think all of us agreed was a very solid effort by Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. Boo.
We have another one that critics like. I think audiences are going to like a lot. And I think this is Marvel in the midst of a course correction. And it's a good movie because it's about a family and it's not about superheroes.
Right. Yeah. Along those lines, this is, I think, where Marvel is finding its footing is surprise, focusing on characters rather than spectacle. Because Thunderbolts I liked because it seemed to care more about the people at the heart of the action than, whatever glowing doohickey in the sky they had to stop. Fantastic Four is similar, and it feels like either independently or because, James Gunn spearheaded so much of Marvel for so long, seems like DC and Marvel are arriving at the same conclusion at the same time, which is audiences are tired of origin stories. Audiences have seen 50 gazillion versions of these characters. Let's just drop everybody in the middle of the action and just assume we all know what's going on, which I thought was one of the several interesting parallels between this and Superman. I think we're going to talk about both of them together in a little bit, but you get a little montage at the beginning, like we've seen in the trailers, like the sort of 60s style talk show host. He kind of gives us an overview of where we are in the story, and again, we're several years into superpowers here. We're several years into Americans knowing them and loving them. And so it just leaves room to kind of get to know these people outside of grasping with superpowers. Like, we've already passed that point. So it just allows for a lot more fun that way. And, I know there's been some talk about casting and stuff, but I feel like Marvel kind of nailed it with this. But, I feel like Pedro Pascal is finally finding a role that allows him to use his charisma in the right way rather than trying to bury it a little bit. Vanessa Kirby, not quite as
Man, I think
charismatic.
I think Vanessa Kirby's great in this movie.
Yeah,
I loved her in this film. To
yeah.
me, she was the highlight of the whole team.
Yeah, to me, like not quite as dynamic as she was in the Mission Impossible movies, but it's showing kind of what a well-rounded actress she is. Because Sue Storm is a totally different kind of character than she's played in Mission Impossible. So I think because she's so steeped in like indie movies and stuff, I think that this is going to allow mainstream audiences to kind of see a new side of her, which is good. Joe Quinn is great as Human Torch, and I feel like the Thing kind of is the sort of stealth MVP of this one. I think he gets some of the best lines. He gets some of the best,
I agree. And
his
it's
subplot's
so
really
hard.
interesting.
It's so hard to create that character into something that feels real and emotional because it's a giant piece of rock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of what the Thing is. But Evan Moss Bacharach, I think, does a really nice job through his voice and through the animation because it's all CGI. And by
A
the way,
lot
there
of
are
a lot of
I was
wink
gonna,
wink cooking jokes because of who
yeah,
the actor is playing him.
yeah, exactly. Right. Take us back to the beef. No, but uh, there were a couple places I thought where the CGI, the animation on the Thing didn't look great. He looked
Yeah.
disconnected from reality a little more than I would have liked, but it only happened one or two times. It wasn't that bad. And again, Moss Bacharach does, I think, a really nice job of his voice work. That's what he's primarily doing
Hmm.
here,
Yeah.
to make that character into someone we care about. The bottom line, Jesse, is that you're going to care about these characters and you care about them as a family. And that's why the movie works. And very much to echo something Josh said, James Gunn gave us like 5 lines of dialogue at the top of Superman that was the origin story that was setting up the whole universe. This movie does very much the same thing with the opening sequence with the TV host setting up the history of the Fantastic Four. And as a result, they launch into the story. And I think in both cases, it benefits the film so much to not get bogged down in that
Hmm.
stuff. And then the other thing I would say is Marvel movies have felt like homework for a long time now.
Yep.
We've been oh, did you watch the TV show? Oh, do you understand why this guy's Captain America now? He used to not be Cap. You don't understand why this character is interacting with this one. This is why this guy has his shield. Oh wait, have I watched enough TV shows? You know,
Hmm.
it felt like homework. I saw an incredible stat the other day that like Marvel had gone from like over the first 15 years of Marvel, they produced 70 hours of entertainment, and over the past 5 years, they've produced 170 hours of entertainment. Those numbers may be off a little bit, but they're not off that much. It's
Yeah.
insane. This movie doesn't feel like homework by taking us to a completely different
Yep.
Earth. This is connected
Eight
to the
eight two
current.
eight or something like that.
Yeah,
It's like an
they say this is
alternative universe, basically,
Yeah.
right?
exactly. They're going to connect these characters to the other characters we're familiar with, but for this movie, they are elsewhere. We don't need to deal with hey, what about the snap? Hey, what's going on with Iron Man while all this is happening? All these other things that have are a burden, are luggage, baggage that the other Marvel movies have to carry. None of that in this film.
Yeah.
And as a result, it is way, way better than what we've gotten lately.
Yeah,
So
that's you kind of was stepping on what I was gonna say, but the fact that
Sorry.
no, you're good. Like, it's just not a lot of jousting this time. I don't understand why Marvel isn't selling that aspect more in the trailers and stuff because it does feel like the anticipation for this one feels a little muted to me. And I feel like if Marvel was saying like, look, you don't need to watch 30 other movies and 10 Disney Plus shows. This is its own thing. It's a completely standalone movie. I don't even think, unless I missed them, there were any like little winks or nods to other films. I think this was its
There's
own
nothing.
thing, which was
The
really
only the only
refreshing.
real the only winks and nods are to things that exist within Fantastic Four comics.
Yeah,
Like for example, there's a shot of the UN where there's a certain country
right.
that you're like, wait a second, I know where that leads someplace. But I'm not going to give it away. And there's a character that sort of is mentioned offhand at the beginning, plays a role at the end that is sort of a classic Fantastic Four character from the comics. But other than that,
Yeah.
this is not connected to the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at all.
Yeah,
So
even the the required in credits scenes or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing to do with other films. There's a little bit of setting up for later, but not
it's
in a
so
way
nothing.
that yeah,
These are the least interesting and least consequential post-credit scenes that Marvel's ever done.
yeah, absolutely.
cool. So I will skip them. Jason, you mentioned on a previous episode, or maybe it was just like when we were all talking, like after a recording or something, that Fantastic Four was one of the sort of big comic books for you growing up. So
Definitely.
I kind of want to pose this question to you, though, Josh. If you have any, theories yourself, feel free to throw them in. But why do you think this has been such a tricky property for Hollywood to adapt? Of like, this is by far not the first Fantastic Four movie. There's, a Roger Corman version from the 90s that was like not even really
No,
released. Like
it
you could
doesn't
find,
even count. Yeah.
yeah. Then there are the two Tim Story ones, which did okay, but like no one really likes them. And then there is the 2015 one, which is one of the more like infamous like Hollywood train wrecks of the last 10 years. So what? Why is this? Because this is like a very like I read something yesterday that like Marvel has put out pretty much a Fantastic Four comic like every week or every month. Probably like every month since like the 60s. And like this is one of their more reliable properties and more reliable characters that has sort of always been a centerpiece to the comics. And I don't know. I'm just sort of curious, as you as a fan of these characters, like why has it taken so long, and what is it about this new movie that it sounds like to you guys has sort of, you know, if not fully cracked that formula, at least cracked it much better than like all the previous adaptations have before.
Well, so one thing I'll say is that I thought the first two, I'm not counting the Roger Corman one. The first two movies had the burden of the thing, and by that I mean I'm blanking. Michael Chiklis
Mm-hmm.
was in like I don't know, like a styrofoam suit or something like that. I don't even know what they did.
I went back and watched them, and it looks really janky. Like you can see it, like it
Yeah.
looks like a Party City outfit. Like you can see like the rubber folding on him as he's like trying to move and stuff like that.
It's bad. It's really bad, and I think it distracts so much from any connection that you could possibly have to the. You can't immerse yourself in a film where you're like, that looks ridiculous. The other thing is those films, I think they struck like this weird comedic kind of tone. I think that they couldn't figure out that audiences were maybe ready for the kind of powers that the Fantastic Four have. Remember that for the most part, as we're coming up through comic book movies, the Fantastic Four had like these weird cosmic kind of powers.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Fantastic stretches. Sue has force fields. It's a little different than Iron Man building a really cool suit, or even Spider-Man being bit by a spider and having the. I don't. It feels different to me, and I think that a lot of the movies have struggled with the powers and how they change the people. But then the biggest thing is you've got to get the family dynamic right. The reason the Fantastic Four are known as the first family of Marvel is because they are a family and they work as a team. I recall growing up, one of the things that and I didn't realize it at the time, one of the things that as I look back on Fantastic Four comics, almost always they were solving problems together. Yes, Reed had the big brain. Yes, Ben Grimm, the Thing, was using his muscles. Johnny's, impulsive, and they each have their character traits, but they work together a lot. And I think the movies have not done a great job of capturing that. And this movie tries a lot harder, and I think succeeds a lot more in giving each one of these four characters something to do, a reason to be a part of the team and to be a part of the solution that they need to get there at the end. And to me, that's why it's better than those previous films.
Yeah, I think another part of that is just a lot of it comes down to casting. Pedro Pascal is, nothing against these previous films, but they
You
succeed
saying
or
Pedro Pascal's
fail
a better actor
based
than
on.
Ian Gruffin?
Yeah, he's like the guy's not bad. He was just a blank slate,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, and say what you will about Jessica Alba, she certainly has her range that that
right, right.
she can tackle, and being genius scientist is not one. You're burying
Look,
your most.
the most recent one had Michael B. Jordan. I mean, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, your most charismatic actor in those originals, not counting the Corman ones, you're burying under that crappy looking latex. And then Chris Evans, he's sort of like a proto Cap there, like, so you
yeah,
see why he hung around. But yeah, so there's casting is a big part of it, and another part is I feel like they finally got the tone that this is just, they fight villains, they're trying to save the universe from these huge threats, but at the heart of it is an optimistic tone. And I feel like, going for like the last disaster did, a grim and gritty Fantastic Four is completely defeating the purpose of Fantastic Four. It's Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, like it's so
yeah.
That
I,
that
I feel
20
like,
that 2015 one is so baffling. Like I rewatched like the Tim Story ones and the 2015 one, and I mean the it we maybe don't put enough emphasis on like for all the like Josh Trank's vision was undermined. It's like it kind of seems like Josh Trank was not the right person for it
yeah,
in the first place, and then like was like I don't really understand Fantastic Four. Here's like a weird Cronenberg movie I want to make,
yeah,
and
it's
then them
like, what
being like
if,
we don't want this. Can we like in about like a month turn this into a Fantastic Four movie? And it is just that movie's just
It's
like
all over the
absolute.
place.
It's
yeah,
diarrhea. It's so bad.
what if a Fantastic Four movie just bummed you out, made you feel really bad?
And where
Like,
they don't get their powers and become the Fantastic Four until like the last 20 minutes of the movie,
right.
basically.
Well, and I should say, I mean, you're mentioning the directors of these previous films. Matt Shackman, the guy who does this, I really like this guy. He did the
Yeah,
WandaVision TV series. Now, look, we can dump on the fact that Marvel bit off more than they could chew with all these TV series, but to me, like WandaVision and Loki are really good
yeah.
television. Those are
The,
enjoyable.
those are the ones that felt like at least like 50% of the way to kind of like an interesting like had kind of like a cool premise, even
Well,
if I think
they had an idea of what they
yeah.
wanted to do, and Matt Shackman was the guy who did that on WandaVision. And he's not someone who has a lot of movie experience at all. He's mostly been a TV guy. He did several very good, really good episodes of Game of Thrones. He's done some pilots. Like this is a guy who's a really successful TV director. They gave him this movie, and on the one hand, you could go, wait, don't you need someone a little more experienced? But I think what he did on WandaVision said to them, he can handle this. And WandaVision is another that, WandaVision succeeds because it's about a family, it's about a couple and their kids. And Marvel said, wait, we want to make a movie about a couple, their best friend and their kid. But I mean, that brother kid, you get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
What
this guy's
and
the
you've
perfect choice.
not only that, but he's a former child actor himself, so he sort of understands how to
Yeah.
massage those actor egos a little bit. He understands I think one of the siblings from Just the 10 of Us, right, understands a family dynamic on a TV show. But yeah, I think it's finally matching the right filmmaker with the right tone and trusting in your actors to understand the parts they're playing and to accept it for what it is, not what we think it should be in our dark, moody era. Like that's, take it for what it is, not for what you're trying to turn it into.
So the next thing I kind of wanted to poke you guys' brains about, because there's two other like very notable Marvel characters who appear in this movie, to my understanding. I mean, there's Julia Gardner shows up as the Silver Surfer, and then you guys might have to like help me with like because my computer is freezing, but like we get Galactus, who is like one of the signature Fantastic Four villains. They have attempted to do this story once prior, I believe in like it's the second Tim Story movie like tried to do
Yes.
the kind of Galactus Silver
Yeah.
Surfer story. How
Yeah.
are these two aspects kind of incorporated into this movie, and what did you guys think about Julia Garner as Silver Surfer?
I think that I was terrified when I heard they were going to do Silver Surfer and Galactus because Not so much Silver Surfer. And by the way, I think Julia Garner does a really nice job.
Yeah, she's
Silver
great.
Surfer, yeah, Silver Surfer is first of all looks fabulous,
Hmm.
and it is a fully articulated character, not just a glowing doohickey.
It's not
Galactus,
just the character that like shows up for like what like is she important to the story of the movie, or is she just sort of
oh,
like she
hugely.
Yes.
shows up for like
Yes.
5 minutes and is like Galactus is coming and that's it?
No,
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 Okay.
there's a reason she's there. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Uh, Galactus to me is a little more problematic. I still think this film does a great job dealing with it. The ultimate solution, which I'm not going to give away, we're not going to do spoilers. The ultimate solution they find, I think, is elegant and smart. It's not one that I would have necessarily thought of, and I really admire that in the film. Galactus is a really tough villain to put out there because if you're going to do him right, Galactus consumes planets. I
Hmm.
want to be clear so folks understand from a size standpoint, he eats planets. Now, the movie, it doesn't get into, we don't get lots of exposition to explain it, but he has a spaceship that consumes them for him. And it's not like he's literally bigger than a planet. And he's taking the planet and popping in its mouth.
Dang, I was
But
hoping he was just gonna like plop down and just be like pulling like a child with like his birthday cake, like you know how like babies eat birthday cakes, just like getting big like fistfuls of like the earth and just munching down as the Fantastic Four are trying to take him off.
no, but the dangerous thing to me about Galactus is that he's unbeatable. I want to be really clear. You're
Hmm.
like you can't punch him. You can't use Johnny Storm's flames. There's nothing you can do to defeat Galactus. And I was because he's basically a god. I was very worried that this film. I was like, how the heck do you start us out with a world ender of a problem for them to solve? And I thought they did a pretty nice job dealing with it. To be honest, the movie is more about and I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but it's more about sort of something Galactus wants and them trying to keep that from him
Hmm.
versus them trying to defeat him. And more of the conflict comes with the Silver Surfer than it does with Galactus himself. And I think that's a good idea because Galactus himself is the size of a city, and trying to deal with something like that is beyond even the Fantastic Four's ability.
And one of the other things I like about this too is I'm glad we seem to be getting back to an era in comic book movies where they're not ashamed to be comic book movies. This has that in
That's a
common with
great point.
Superman as well, where
Yeah.
they're like, this dude's Galactus, he eats planets. It's like, well, do we need like a scientific explanation for it? No, big dude eats planets. These guys went to space, he can stretch now, she's invisible, he catches on fire. Like, that's the extent of it. They don't spend like minutes of exposition explaining
There's
the
no
chemical
like
breakdown of.
yes, we
There's
need
no
to
scientists checking their DNA to figure out, none of that
right. We
BS.
don't
Not
need to
there's no
like overly
midichlorians or
explain
anything.
to people like why that they have their powers and like how it like
Exactly.
is scientifically possible in real world logic. Yeah, I mean that was the thing in just sort of still thinking about the Superman movie from, a couple weeks ago that I think is still my favorite part of that movie is like leaning into the comic bookness and the
Yeah.
silliness of
Yeah.
comic books.
He's got a dog. He wears a cape. That's
Yeah.
cool, right? Like a lot of that is going on in Fantastic Four as well. And it feels like these studios are finally understanding that these started as things that, children read and had fun with and dressed up as for Halloween. These aren't supposed to be, you know, huge bummers.
Okay. Two final questions I have to ask you. I've first I'm just sort of curious who the standout in the cast is because we kind of hinted at earlier. I think they really kind of nailed at kind of an exciting group of people who are famous but are sort of on the cusp of like could be more famous. So who out of this sort of grouping, the Fantastic Four family, would you say kind of really steals the movie?
Josh, you go first. I don't know that I have a good answer for that one. They
Say
each have really fine moments, I think.
And they've got a really good chemistry together. Like the movie really pop. Like they all have their own sort of four individual things to do, but the movie just really pops when all four of them are together in the same room. Kind of like we were talking about earlier. I think if you're just going with pure like entertainment value, I think The Thing and Moss Baccarat is kind of going to give you the most bang for your buck there. But if you're just talking about the character who really sort of like really captures the the tropes, the characteristics of the person they're playing, I think that's Pedro Pascal is fantastic. Like he really brings on the like the super genius thing, but not the sort of like tortured super genius like Tony Stark. He's just like, oh, we got a problem. Let me go over to the chalkboard. It's just a part of who he is. It's not the thing that's keeping him from being really happy. Like it's just
Yeah.
you know a component of who he is. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think they're all really solid.
I would add one more thing, which is that when I think about the Fantastic Four, again, I think about the comics I read growing up. I will freely admit that I'm not someone who currently reads comic books. So it may be that the Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby's character, it may be that Sue has changed over the years. She probably has. The Sue Storm that I remember growing up was always a damsel in distress. And and I was relieved, thrilled, even though this film is very much harkening back to the early days of the Fantastic Four, even with even a visual and story callback to the very first episode, or sorry, first comic of the Fantastic Four that featured the Mole Man. Um, Despite that, they very much have updated Sue Storm, and she is a character with agency. She is very much the strong leader of the team to some extent. I mean, I actually think she's almost more of in charge than Pedro Pascal is. If you've ever been married, then you understand the wife. The wife probably is in charge. But I really appreciated that about the character, that it wasn't. I remember vividly reading Fantastic Four comics where Sue Storm has a force field up and she's like, "Oh no, I'm so weak, it's about to collapse." Like Sue Storm is always like, just barely has enough strength. This Sue Storm is a strong character. She's backing down from nothing. And I just wanted to shout that out because I really think that's a strong thing that they have changed from the early beloved Fantastic Four comics.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess
so
if I was gonna have one gripe about casting, it's I'm not, and I don't know if this is just that they're establishing people for later or what, but I was just kind of baffled that they would cast somebody like Natasha Lyonne for a
A
relatively
throwaway
nothing
character.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
what?
yeah, she pops up. She's super fun. She's cute. She's got some chemistry with the thing, and she's in a few scenes, and you're like, oh, it's Natasha Lyonne. She's awesome. I love her, and that's the extent of what you get, which is that was a bummer for me.
I was sure that they were going to bring her back and make her a damsel in
Yeah,
distress. They're like, oh, the thing was going to have to save her or something. Nah, she's kind of there. He interacts with her a couple times, and then she's not
yeah,
part of the finale. I was just like, oh, okay. Well,
okay. Well, because
Lame.
like they cut John Malkovich totally out of the movie, so I'm wondering if a lot of her stuff ended up, a victim of the editing. Because this thing, another selling point, under 2 hours. We have a comic book movie that is under 2 hours, so it feels like there was a lot of subplots that they're just like, we don't need them. Let's just tell this story, focus on the main family, and get in, get out.
All right. Final question is how you guys think this is going to stack up against Superman. Because since we recorded our Superman episode, thus far seems to be kind of the movie of the summer. Unless you're, been okay, chill out,
Well, we have our
Jason.
answer, I guess.
Yeah. Unless you're like, I don't know, like Ben Shapiro or someone who works at Fox News, like pretty much everyone I know who has seen the Superman movie like loves it. How do you think that?
the box office is killing, by the way. It's going to be well over $300 million
Yeah.
when all is said and done for Superman in domestic box office. It's a big number.
Yeah. So
Go
how do
go
you
woke,
guys?
make $500 million.
Did you guys see that New Yorker cartoon that was like a guy like falling from a building and Superman goes to save him and the guy just says something like, "Can you not fly so woke?" or something like that.
I saw one, and they were like, "No." He's like, "Oh no, I'm Zack Snyder's Superman," and he just lets him go.
So, I mean, how do you, because this is an interesting kind of like box office face off. I mean, I'm sure the Fantastic Four movie will do well, though, just because it's more iconic characters than like the two other Marvel movies that came out this year that did not do too well at the box office.
Mhm.
But for funsies, like, what do you guys think is going to happen in this sort of joust between these two kind of Silver Age superhero movies? And which one do you prefer? Because I have seen a couple reactions to the Fantastic Four movie that have been like good, but I'm a little underwhelmed coming off the highs of Superman.
Yeah, I think Marvel picked a bad time to course correct and then take an 18-month break because
Mm.
we're not getting another Marvel movie till Doomsday next December. So
A
I'm like,
movie
oh,
that
they
is currently being shot and written at the same time. That doesn't
yeah,
sound good.
yeah. There's no third act apparently, which is always it's always good to shoot a movie with an unfinished script. Um, yeah, I like them both. I think Superman's got the upper hand here. It just feels like a more of a singular vision. It's like James Gunn's version of the story, where with Marvel, you've still it's still very much designed by committee over there. You've got
Hmm.
Kevin Feige as like the architect, right? But you still got writers' rooms. You still have you know five people's names on a script, that kind of thing. I think just I think Superman has the edge there because it's just James Gunn going, yeah, we're gonna make a weird '50s comic book version of Superman, and if it works, great. If not, find somebody else to do this for you. And I think that level of confidence and risk is paying off for Superman. Not to say that Fantastic Four is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's a lot of fun too. I just think it's unfortunate that they're opening so close up against each other.
I would say from a box office perspective, I think both these films are going to be seen as a success. There's Superman. Look, it's already a done deal. Superman is a success. I think at the end, Superman will make more money. I think Superman will be a little bit more of a crowd pleaser. I still think Fantastic Four is going to be well above $250 million domestic. I think Superman will do better internationally. I'm sorry, I mean Fantastic
Yeah,
Four will do
that's
better
what I
internationally.
was
I
gonna
may
say
have
too.
misspoken a moment. Fantastic Four will do better than 250 domestic. I think Superman will do 300 domestic. I think it's possible that Fantastic Four will make more overall because Superman is really not doing well overseas. He is truth, justice, and the American way, and apparently the American way is not really, really popular all over the world right now.
What are you talking
Uh,
about? I don't know what you mean.
yeah. So, but I think both of them are going to be seen as really nice platforms for their studios, their troubled studios to build upon. I think Superman is the better film. I think part of that is we connect more with Superman. He is a more traditional part of our collective consciousness than the Fantastic Four are. And so it's sort of an easier platform to launch from. And part of it is, as Josh said, we get the very singular vision of a brilliant, brilliant writer director in James Gunn versus a little more haphazard kind of thing happening in this movie. But Fantastic Four is a really, really nice with Superman, we left our conversation, and I know I said it's a date. You can take people who are not comic book fans,
Yeah.
and they will enjoy Superman. I'm going to take my wife to see Superman. She doesn't watch these kind of movies. I'm not even thinking of taking her to see Fantastic Four. It's just a different kind of film
Yeah.
with a different kind of aesthetic and storyline behind it, and I think that it's not as universal as a result.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see how that plays out over the course of the summer. Guys, thank you as always for joining this week. And be sure to check out if you haven't checked out our Superman episodes, just go back and do that. Especially we did a tier list ranking of all the Superman movies. I haven't checked the comments for that, but I'm sure they're all totally chill and don't have any like angry Snyder Bro people in them. And be sure to also check out our other episode this week where Jason and I have fisticuffs over Ari Aster's new film, which you should listen to that episode even if you haven't seen the movie yet, I would say. So yeah. And be sure to come back to us in the coming weeks as we talk about more summer movies like
Free Cure Friday.
Freakier Friday. I'm pretty hyped for Weapons. Like I'm
Yeah.
hearing good Weapons buzz. I'm unsure what to think of this new Darren Aronofsky movie that's kind of like Darren Aronofsky saying like I make fun movies now, which sure. Yeah, and then we got the fall festivals coming around the corner and a bunch of like Oscar stuff and serious movies where we really can debate.
I gotta say, I'm really excited to just be dumb and silly next week with Naked Gun.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, like I'm ready to be stupid.
Can I admit something? I've never seen a single Naked Gun movie.
Oh,
What?
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
it just was never one of those like comedies that was like on in my so like now asking you guys like I need to do some homework for that episode. So like how many of the Naked Gun movies do
Just
I
the
really
first one.
just the
The
first
first
one?
one.
The
Okay.
first one.
Okay.
That's it.
Second one's okay. Third one's bad. But yeah, just watch the first one. It's like
how
85 minutes.
how many
You're good.
seasons of Police Files do I need to watch?
Police
Oh, there was
Squad.
only 6
Oh,
episodes.
whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Police
there was
Squad.
only
Yeah,
6
you could-
episodes.
You don't need to watch that one either.
Okay. All right. Well, catch you all next week.